This is for Algebra 1, and we're looking at transformations on quadratics. We've already talked about this a little bit, but we focused on your vertical transformations. Today we're going to revisit that, and then we're going to add to it our horizontal transformations. So just as a reminder, a quadratic function is a function that has an x squared in it. Usually looks like ax squared plus bx minus c. The graph of a quadratic function is either a u or an upside down u, and we call it a parabola. And it looks something like this. Where it crosses the x-axis will be your solution. Now, none of that really has anything to do with transformations. That's just reminding you what it is. So if we were to look at the parent quadratic function, y equal x squared, it looks like this, okay? And our transformations are comparing the parent to something else. Notice your vertex is at the origin and that it opens up. That's important to realize that about your parent function. So transformations on quadratic functions, changing the constant, the number at the end of the equation, will shift your graph up or down. The bigger the number gets, the higher it goes. The smaller the number gets, the lower it goes. A negative x squared is going to make the graph open downward. This is called a vertical flip or a flip over x. Changing the coefficient, which is the number at the very front, but ignoring the sign because the sign is just a flip, changes the width of the parabola. A bigger number is going to be a vertical expansion. It's going to stretch it up and make it narrow. A smaller number is going to be a vertical compression. It's going to squish it together and make it wide. You can write VE or VC for that. Changing the number trapped in the parentheses with x will be a horizontal transformation. Okay, there's our new stuff. Is when we have horizontal transformations. A smaller number, like plus or minus a smaller number, let me back up a minute. There's two things you need to realize about horizontal transformations. Number one, it's trapped with the x. So for a quadratic, it's going to be inside the parentheses with the x. Number two, horizontal moves are going to do the opposite of what you would expect. So if you would expect, just based on the number, for it to do one thing, it's really going to do the other. So like when we added a bigger number at the end, it made it go up. So you would think that if you added a number at the end of the x, it would go to the right. It's really going to go left. If you think it would go left, it's really going to go right. So when I'm talking about plus or minus a smaller number, this is like if you have x plus, sorry, my pen is not writing very good, x plus 5 inside your parentheses, you would think that it would go right because a positive move on the x-axis goes to the right, but it's going to do the opposite. So it really goes left if it's the bigger number. A smaller number, like x minus 2, you would expect it to go left, but it's really going to go right. A negative, which has to be trapped in there with the x, is going to be a horizontal flip. It's going to flip over the y-axis. A big number trapped in front of the x is going to make a horizontal compression, and a horizontal compression is actually going to make it narrow. And a smaller number trapped in front of the x is going to be a horizontal expansion, which actually makes your graph wider because it's like you take the sides and you pull them apart. So here's an example. We have y is equal to negative 3 times negative 5x plus 3, close quantity squared, minus 4. Each one of these things that's not just your x or your squared, everything else causes a transformation. And I like to just go from left to right and find them. So we start out by having this negative number. A negative at the front, okay, it's at the front, so it's got to be vertical. A negative causes a flip. And if you think about a vertical flip, it's going to flip over the x-axis. So then you have a 3 right after that. Ignore the negative, it's just that it's a 3. It's at the front, so it has to be a vertical change, and a bigger number at the front is going to be a vertical expansion and make it narrow. You can just put a VE. So then we have a negative, it's trapped inside the parentheses, so it's got to be a horizontal move. We know that a negative causes a flip, and if you think about a horizontal or sideways flip, that means that it's going to go over the y. Then we have a number in front of the x. Once again, it's trapped. It's got to be a horizontal move, and it's going to do the opposite of what you would expect. And so you would think that a big number would be an expansion, but it's really going to be a compression. So that's a horizontal compression, which would actually make it narrow. We have plus 3 here. So it's trapped, it's horizontal, it's got to go left or right. You would expect it to go right, so it's really going to go left. And then you have a number at the very end. It's at the end, so it's got to be a vertical move. It's minus, and so it's going to go down. Okay, so each thing other than the x and the squared makes something happen. If it's trapped inside the parentheses, it's horizontal, and it does the opposite of what you expect. So identify the changes from the parent function. The only change we have going on here is this minus 3, and it's at the end, and so it's going to go down 3. Number 2, the only change we have is this plus 5. It's at the end. It's going to go up 5. Number 3, we have one change. It's a number at the beginning, so it's got to be vertical. We got bigger, and so it is a vertical expansion. Number 4, we have a number at the beginning, so it's got to be vertical. We got smaller, so it's a vertical compression. Going to the next page. All right, we have 2 changes. This number makes a change, and this number makes a change. The one at the front has to be vertical. It's bigger than 1, and so it's a vertical expansion. The one at the end has to be a vertical move as well, but it's got to be up or down. It's going minus 5, so we're going down 5. Number 6 also has 2 changes. 2/3 at the front, it's got to be vertical. It's smaller than 1, so it is a compression. Number at the end has to send you up or down. It's plus 5, so it goes up 5. Number 7 has 3 changes. Your negative causes something, your 3 causes something, and your 6 causes something. The negative is going to be a flip. It's at the very beginning, so it's flipping over x. It's a vertical flip. The 3 is at the beginning, so it's vertical. It's bigger than 1 because we ignore the sign, and so it's a vertical expansion. And 6 is at the end, so it has to be up or down move. It's plus 6, so it's going to go up 6. Number 8, you cannot list your transformations until you get everything on the same side. This 7 is in the wrong place, so we've got to move it. And it becomes negative 1/2 x squared plus 7 is equal to y. So we have 3 changes. We have the negative, we have the 1/2, and we have the plus 7. Negative is going to make it flip. It's at the beginning, so it's going to flip over x. 1/2 is at the beginning. It's a vertical. It's smaller, so it's a compression. And plus 7 is at the end, so it sends it up 7. All right, number 9, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 changes. See if you can figure out what's going to cause 4 changes. The negative, the 2, the 3, and the 5. Negative is at the beginning, so it's going to be a flip over the x. 2 is at the beginning, so it is a vertical. It's larger than 1, so it is expansion. 3 is trapped, so it's a horizontal move. So x plus 3, you would expect to go to the right. It's really going to go to the left 3. Minus 5 at the end is going to send it down 5. All right, number 10, I don't like this problem, so we're going to change it. And it's going to be 3 parentheses negative x plus 1 squared. So write that, 3 parentheses negative x plus 1 squared. You have 3 changes. The 3 causes a change, the negative causes a change, and the 1 causes a change. 3 is at the beginning, it's bigger than 1, so it is a vertical expansion. Negative is trapped inside, so it is going to flip over the y. Plus 1 is trapped, and so it's actually going to go to the left 1. Number 11, I don't like that one either, so we're going to call it negative parentheses 2x minus 1 squared. We have 3 changes, the negative, the 2, and the minus 1. The negative is at the beginning, so it is going to be a flip over x. The 2 is trapped, so it is a horizontal change. You would expect 2 to be an expansion, so that means it must be a compression. You would expect this to go to the left 1, so that means it's going to go to the right 1. Number 12, we have 3 changes. The negative, the 3, and the minus 2.5. Negative is going to make it flip over the x. Plus 3 is going to make it go to the left 3. Minus 2.5 is going to send it down 2.5. Number 13 has 3 changes, the 2, the 4, and the 3. The 2 is at the beginning, so it's vertical. It's larger than 1, so it's an expansion. -4 is trapped inside the parentheses, therefore it does the opposite, and instead of going to the left, it really goes right 4. And +3 is at the end, so it's going to go up 3. Number 14 has 3 changes. Your negative, your 2, and your 6 all cause changes. Negative is going to flip it over the x. 2 is at the beginning, so it is a vertical. It's larger than 1, so it's expansion. -6 is trapped in the parentheses with the x. It does the opposite, so it's really going to go to the right 6. Number 15 has 3. The 6, the -1, and the -4. 6 is at the beginning. That's going to be vertical. It's larger than 1, so it's expansion. -1 is trapped. It does the opposite, so it goes to the right 1. -4 is at the end. It sends it down 4. Number 16 has 3 changes, the negative, the 5, and the 2. Negative is going to make it flip over the x. +5 is trapped. It does the opposite, so it goes left 5. And +2 at the end is going to send it up 2. You've got to remember that if it's trapped inside the parentheses with the x, it's horizontal, and it does the opposite of what you would expect. Other than that, it's nothing new. You've worked with the other transformations. Make sure when you're doing your assignment that you have everything on the same side. It's got to be equal to y or equal to 0 before you can do this. And other than that, things are looking pretty good as far as the assignment. So if you have any questions, call me over.